Hi, this is Matt Kuntz. I'm the executive director of NAMI Montana, and I know it's time for a lot of NAMIs around the country to look at strategic planning, to look at bylaws, and all those things. I think that we do kind of use summer as a way to begin to start thinking through some of that stuff and the long term wise. And we're the same at NAMI Montana, um, and we do it a little bit differently. We're really skeptical of kind of grand strategic plans. We're a little bit more of the Warren Buffett kind of way of thinking of you really need to be able to have the flexibility for the world to change, for the world to be complex and know what you're doing and then act on opportunities. But it is important to think about what are the main points that you're pushing? What efforts should be compounding and improving every year? So that's where we start off with, and we really do rely on kind of the way of thinking of from Jim Collins' Good to Great about the flywheel. And that was doubled down on when I went back and did my master's in healthcare administration at UCLA. And we looked at all the different ways to do strategy, and it just is so hard to beat the flywheel. We did set up Chat GPT for anybody that wants to do their own kind of walk through all the different types of strategic analysis, and I included the Chat GPT link at the bottom of this if you want to go through that process. But I'll just roll out what we do and what we think about it. Um, so, NAMI Montana works to improve the lives of Montanans with mental health conditions and their families through support, education, and advocacy. That is what we do. That is our mission. That is everything that we're tied to every day. Should be improving lives of Montanans with mental health conditions and their families through support, education, and advocacy. Um, and that is what we push. That's what we hammer. But we did realize about 2014 that we do need to have kind of a fourth leg to our stool. And that is really being involved with research because it's essential. And I'll describe it a little bit. So, all of these different parts of our flywheel that support education, advocacy, and research feed into each other. So we have amazing support groups that run on the NAMI model, and we also provide call in helplines and walk-ins. All these different ways that we're able to serve our communities and the ways that the affiliates serve their communities with that base level of support. And as you're digging into that support, you're finding these are the things that are wrong. Like we're setting up our resource guides around the state and what's missing. As we walk people through their treatment journey, finding out that like when our crisis system went down around our state, it was undeniable from our support, and that directly fed into our advocacy. When we had mothers calling us, their children with schizophrenia in the prison in solitary confinement, directly fed into our advocacy and ended up leading to the development of a forensic hospital for the state of Montana. It was purely from the support feeding into the advocacy. And then the support also moves into the education. And the education programs help our families and our people with mental health conditions understand their conditions, understand what the journey is like. But there are also a number of other different education programs and education efforts, on YouTube. We have school-based programs that we support, and it's all of these different ways where we help everyone around Montana better understand mental health conditions, better understand, because they are going to be involved in making critical decisions in supporting people's lives. And it could be the school teacher, could be the HR person, the anybody, anywhere where people with mental health conditions are too. So it's really important that we have multifaceted education programs, and the support guide those. They help us see what's not out there. And then also the research helps guide those programs. When we went back and redid our description of mental health conditions, we went straight to the best researchers in the country. We were only able to do that because we'd already been involved with research. So that was how it directly fed into our education. And as well as the education leads us into more advocacy, helps support our advocacy. Both ways, we have to tell people how they can help to make their system better, but they also are telling us this is what we need. These are the problems that we see, and that allows the advocacy efforts to continue to build. Um, and advocacy as a standalone, I mean, it really just benefits from all of these different things. We can't successfully advocate for anything if we're not also delivering support and education. You know, we need to be able to know these conditions at a grassroots level, and how they affect people's lives. And you only do that if you are answering the phone and running the support groups and having people email desperate for help. You don't find them any other way. There's no one else that does that for you. So it helps us get really deep in the weeds in the same way, like being involved with research has allowed us to be much better advocates, because we're able to figure out what's realistic to advocate for, what we should be advocating for. When I first came to NAMI, it was broad, we support evidence based practices. What does that mean? What does that really, really mean? And from an advocacy side, the researchers don't know what that means either. So they need people that know the laws to go back to, that the definition of evidence-based practices from like the 1965 Education Act. Like that goes back and forth. We did a paper with Johns Hopkins just on what education programs qualified as evidence-based practices, and it was right in the middle of between research and advocacy. That's why we were able to work together really well with them. In the same way, we were able to find out from researchers the realities of treatment resistant mental health conditions. And it's incredibly important, because if 1/3 of people are struggling to really move into recovery in the way that they want to, and recover the lives that they want to have, because their mental condition is not responding to treatment, we need to know from the researchers, what does that mean? Why is that? And part of it is our diagnostic system is not that specific. It doesn't directly point clearly towards what treatments will work best. So we did advocacy around the Hannon Precision Brain Health Initiative and a number of other efforts, really tied to our work with researchers and understanding how they think, and understanding things like what research is funded. Is it realistic to have requirements for evidence-based practices for native mental health interventions if we're not funding as a country the research to see if those native interventions work? Like understanding what is funded and seeing it through the researcher's lens is critical for advocacy. It's critical for the practices that we push and how we think about it. So it goes back to where we fit in with those researchers. And it is important to say we're not claiming to be the researchers. We're not claiming in most things to be anything other than partners with researchers to help them better understand the conditions, to help them better understand what to research, how to get their research out, tweaking their research to make it more valid, to make it more helpful. Describing and saying, hey, this is what the insurance companies want to see. Like, please, please think about that as you're doing your research, because the insurance company is going to tell us there's not any research on this. So please make sure it works through the lens of all of that. And there is a role, there's a huge role. Researchers around the country are desperate to work with people who live with mental health conditions, family members, and organizations that combine all of these and in really positive ways. So, one of the ways that we found out about this was through a Bakori project with Dr. Christoph Lambert, and he really worked to build this amazing Bakori group analyzing bipolar disorder and using really advanced artificial intelligence or advanced analytics of EHR systems to figure that out, combined with focus groups at our NAMI conference and at NAMIs around the country. And it was such a cool way for us to see how the researchers work together with folks like us and how they should. So this is an opportunity. There is room for us in research, and I do believe that every NAMI needs to be involved with research at some level. It might take you years to get there. You're probably going to build up your support, education, advocacy first. But once you are strong enough in that as a local affiliate, as a state affiliate, as a national organization, it is time to bring research into the mix, because it's going to enhance your flywheel in a way that you're not going to get if you're just trying to work on support, education, and advocacy. So that's our take on it. That's the flywheel that we use. This is the flywheel that we're always working on. The past year, past 2 years, we've really worked to enhance our support and education programs. We've really worked with our state block grant to say, how can we do this better? How can we prove what we're doing is better? And it's taken a ton of work, but we realized that we were rocking advocacy, we were starting to rock research, and we needed to build up some of these core efforts that NAMI's always been good at. So those are some of the lessons that we've learned, and it is something that I think you need to always think about. What is compounding year in, year out? How are you getting better? And for us, the Jim Collins flywheel really works great. And again, if you like to look at other breakdowns for strategy, we do have a Chat GPT healthcare strategy advisor, either for NAMIs or for other healthcare entities. Thanks so much. I hope that helps.